Oh, hey, what's going on in here?
Well, you're in the science shed.
What? I've coming in here to get a tool out of here. Like, I need like a new spanner.
I'm afraid there's no tools here, just intellectual nuggets.
What?
Yeah, so you're in the science shed. It's a kind of 2 weekly podcast with two academic scientists.
Two of you? Is that just you in there, isn't there?
No. Nick's around somewhere. Nick Evans he's an associate professor at Southampton University.
Right. Well, am I gonna where am I gonna get my?
Well, you need to sit yourself down
Right.
for about half an hour, and you just let us kind of talk to you about some of the things we've been thinking about.
Well, all right. Well, I can spare a bit of time, but have you got a cuppa?
You put the kettle on, and we'll get on with it.
All right, then. Here we go. Science shed. We're in the science shed. Science shed. We're in the science shed. Come on, Steve.
Bunsen,
Burner.
Dolly,
Machine.
internal.
Combustion.
Why do we need
Steam.
Petri,
Dishes.
Oscar,
Space.
Isaac,
Newton.
transplanting?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the science shed.
Yep. Hello, Steve.
That sounded a little bit like I was a bit bored, didn't it? Should I try it again? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the science shed.
That sounds fake.
Yeah, it's true.
Shall I try it?
Yeah, go on then.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to another edition
That's your radio voice. Hi, how are you?
We should fade out Barkham and turn
Overdrive. You ain't seen nothing yet. Let's rock.
Steve, do you ever invite any of your people that you work with round to your house?
I have done. My group, every year at Christmas, I invite them over. I buy them cheese.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So,
Although my group's got a lot bigger than it used to be, so I might not be able to afford it anymore.
well, I did it a while ago. I haven't done it for a while. I did it with my students, and I just invited them round for some dinner.
So a kind of social thing.
Just like round my house. Yeah, my boss never did it when I was a PhD student. He was quite antisocial. He's a nice top bloke, but
Yeah.
wasn't sociable in that way.
My old boss in the States used to do that, but it was really quite painful.
That's the thing.
He had a pool party, so everyone used to come every year. Everyone used to come and get a little bit undressed.
Can I do
a little
some
bit.
rude impressions of your ex-boss?
No, don't. 'Cause you might. Don't.
He's a top guy as
He's
well.
amazing, yeah.
He's an amazing guy. He's a Nobel Prize winner.
But he used to have a pool party. Did you have a pool party?
No.
What did you have?
So, well, this is what I'm saying. I know that those parties can be weird and
little bit,
awkward
yeah.
and strange. So when I did it before, it was
Just to go back to what I will say is I'm really glad he did that, right? Because it really did feel like, so one, it gives you stuff to talk about on your future podcasts, and two, it actually did. It was nice that he kind of wanted, his lab was very important to him, and so this was his way of showing that. And I thought that's profound. It's it wasn't just a job to him; it was much more than that. So I think it was useful, even though it can be a bit cringy sometimes.
Anyway, so there's a fine line, right? So
Yeah,
when I did
absolutely.
it before, there was a few of us having dinner because I didn't have. There's a few more people who I sort of co-supervise now. So
Right.
it's like
So you're growing.
6 or 7. Well,
Spreading.
kind of.
Don't like spreading, but spreading.
I don't like spreading, I like growing. But there's kind of like... So I invited all them round and then my collaborators who co-supervise them and things like that.
Yeah.
And we had a party. It was quite nice.
Yeah?
I made canapes.
What kind of canapes? So okay, let me guess. Right. So Nick is not a refined sophisticate in it by any means. So I
You'd be
think
surprised.
so. So I reckon there was probably. Did you do Bellinis? Bellinis with smoked salmon, and like creme fraiche or something.
He's not too far away. That's a good guess. I did do salmon. I couldn't find Bellini, so I had
Right.
these little, very thin, kind of like pastry cups.
Right. Okay.
And I stuffed the smoked salmon, slices of it, into the little cups.
Right.
And you know what I did? I bought some fresh dill.
Right.
And then I chopped with a pair of scissors the dill very finely, just gently over the top with a bit of olive oil.
So if you,
That's one canapé. So well done.
Yeah.
You've got one. Any others?
I reckon there's probably like a cheese and tomato-y one.
Close.
Yeah.
So mozzarella ball with a
Cheese.
cherry tomato and an
Tomato.
olive.
Oh, and an olive. I wouldn't have got the
Olive.
olive. I wouldn't have guessed the olive.
The olives weren't the best actually. They
Right.
were like they weren't sort of nice.
They didn't rock very well.
No, but the mozzarella and a tomato. And with them, I had fresh basil. I cut a bit of basil over them on cocktail sticks.
So Nick's,
Well done,
Nick's,
that's 2.
Nick's from the West Midlands, so basil is like the most sophisticated thing he knows.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Okay.
I like the way he's getting defensive
come on,
because
come on, another
I
one.
think I'm doing pretty well.
Come on.
All right. Do you do? Yeah, there's got to be a meat one of some variety.
Come on,
so
then.
maybe charcuterie of some kind. Did you take kind of salami?
Not far away.
Oh, I'm
Not
good,
salami.
aren't I?
You've got to be a bit more precise. Than that.
It'll be Parma ham.
Got to be
It'll
something.
Parma ham.
Parma ham. Do you know what I did with the Parma ham?
I wrapped it around some cheese or some
Oh
melon.
my god, he's so clever. I had some little pickles, gherkins,
Oh,
miniature
yeah.
pickles, and I wrapped the Parma ham around the gherkins.
What are they called?
Jammed it
Begins
with
with C.
celery in it. Cruciatons
Yeah,
or
something like that. Yeah.
I jammed a cocktail, and some of them I thought were some people at gherkins are controversial. Some people might not go. I guess I'll do one with a cherry tomato. So I did. And then anything else? So you've got this is amazing. You've got 3 of them.
3 out of 3.
Not totally right, but almost right.
What? Chicken satay.
No. Oh yes, yes. Satay sticks out the oven. Just bought them from Lidl. Whacked them in the oven. They didn't go down as well as the other thing.
Right,
so the
okay.
students who are all enjoying these,
Right.
they were impressed.
They're mixing. They're like,
They
wow,
were
Nick's
impressed.
got some.
I don't know. This is. I
skills in
don't
the
know.
kitchen.
I think it was a nice party, but
Yeah.
like I say, it's always there's always that air of
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of this is could be an awkward situation, but I think it was all right. And then the other thing we had was pizza
Right.
and some random beige Chinese oven baked
Oh, right.
things.
The kind of just calorific.
Yeah, and some bread with some hummus.
Oh, that sounds very nice, and it went well.
I think so. I had a good time. I drank quite a lot of wine.
Right. Well,
I
that's
feel
good.
like I was more drunk than other people.
Wow. Well,
Yeah,
They
but-
also want those stories, right? Your PhD students want to, when they go on to other things, and you become this incredibly successful.
Oh,
science in the
absolutely. They'll
future.
say,
So
I came to
remember
Nick's
him.
hovel.
And he wrapped some cheese around some ham for me.
But yeah, so it was a good thing, and I'd do it again.
Good. Nick. These are your vocal exercises. We learned about that on the last episode of the podcast.
That wasn't vocal exercises.
No, that's just you freestyle scatting.
Did you not understand what I was talking about?
What were we talking
I
about?
encoded my voice in a new thing.
All right, so regular listeners of the podcast will be able to like play that backwards. And
There's
you'll probably
3
be
people
sort of-
out there who understand what
in
I
the
just
world.
said. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say no more about it. What you got for me?
So I wanted to talk about water.
Water's a thing which I have a lot of experience with, Steve.
Right.
I bathe in it.
Yeah.
I drink it.
Yeah.
I mix it with things.
So, so when water boil, what do you think? Like, what's boiling to you? What's the definition of boiling?
Okay. So we're going to go on a journey. I'm going to zoom you into water.
This is Nick doing science communication.
There's lots of little water molecules that look like tiny little coat hangers.
Yeah.
And they all sort of gently brushing
More
aside.
like boomerangs, but yeah.
Look, don't contradict me. They're all floating around in the
Yeah.
thingy, and they're bashing into each other. And some of them are sort of holding hands and moving
Right.
in formation.
Okay.
Others are independent and are sliding past each other.
Yeah.
If you stick your finger in, they all sort of move around relative to each other, and that's what makes it a liquid. So when they boil, you apply heat, and they move around much, much more quickly. And they're less likely to be in like partnership, and they might be a bit more loose. And occasionally, they've got so much energy that they just fly off the surface. They've got so much energy that they just fly off the surface, and
So-
then they're
so-
floating around
So for
as
you,
a gas.
So for you, boiling is a temperature related phenomena.
It's a kinetic thing, yeah. It's based on the molecule's kinetic energies, which increase with the amount of
So what
energy put in the system, and that means they've got more velocity and they can fly away more.
So what happens if you change pressure?
So water, as you know, boils at a lower temperature at lower pressure.
So I'm saying I could make something boil if it was by changing the pressure.
Yeah,
But I'm not changing the temperature.
Okay, so that means that they're inhibited from flying out of the solution by there being a lot of pressure. So if you remove the atoms in the air,
Yeah.
inhibit them flying off the surface. So if you decrease the number of molecules in the air, they can fly off much more easily.
Yeah, so this is why quite often people
Is
say...
that right?
That's right. Place.
Hey! Ooh, yes.
So actually, so
Satisfaction thinking.
boiling is not a temperature associated phenomenon. Like boiling is very different to evaporation. But actually, what you're doing is exactly right. You're saying that this is classically why they always say your cup of tea on your aeroplane is always a bit shit, because what happens is that when you have the cabin of an airplane is pressured, but it's only pressured to about half that of atmospheric pressure,
It
which
always
means that
makes
water.
me feel uncomfortable when I think about that.
But then water.
Fighting for breath. So why are people on a plane not going like that all the time? Can you imagine that if you got on a plane? So I'm going to Spain, right? And you get on the plane and everyone's just like, and then you're flying over
You get to
flying over
40,000
Europe,
feet.
and you just wherever you look, everyone's going.
Okay.
That wasn't happening. So theoretically,
basically-
people breathe more quickly when they're in a plane. Then.
Well,
They must do.
So so that's interesting. So basically, you're just talking about a phase change, right? So when something goes from a liquid to a gas, we associate that with boiling. If something goes from a solid to a gas, we call that sublimation. It's about going from one state of matter to the other. What's really cool about water is this thing called the triple point. Do you know what the triple point is?
It's where you can have in a gas, liquid, and a solid state all at once.
That's true. So
I never quite understood that because in my mind, I remember this from like chemistry lessons when I was at school, and there's kind of
Yeah.
a graph with two axes on it, and then there's some lines.
that's pressure and temperature.
There's some lines, and there's like lines which intersect, and then there's a bit coloured in
Well,
one part, and another bit.
let's
coloured
explain
in.
it a little bit better. So if you're talking about we were talking about boiling, right? And I said say we take water boils at 100 degrees at atmospheric pressure, right? So say we go if I heat some water up to 99 degrees,
Yeah.
it's not going to boil, right? Because every single atom in that cup of water is at 99 degrees, but it's not undergoing any.
Yeah. Why is the line so distinct?
And then what happens is what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that cup and I'm going to lift it up in the air, and so the pressure is going to reduce, and at some point it's going to start to boil, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a phase. So if you imagine that's one point, if you said, okay, let's do that, but rather than do that at now 99 degrees, let's do it at 98 and 97 and 96,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
how high would I
You
have to
lift
take that
it.
water up?
Yeah, I get it.
And you can imagine that drawing that diagram, and that's the what you're describing, the phase state of water. And actually, so there's one area that goes from one area on that graph of ice to gas, to water vapor, and that would be called sublimation of ice. One of those that goes from the liquid state of water to the gaseous state, and that would be called boiling.
I still don't feel
And
any
then-
closer to understanding this. By the way.
So what I was just saying is that you can change temperature or pressure independently, and you can you pick
Oh, I
any
see.
random pressure
so
and
that
any
graph
kind of
has
temperature.
got pressure and temperature on it.
That exactly there,
Oh,
and at
okay.
any one point in that space, you can choose a pressure, and you can look at the temperature you would have to have in order for something to be a solid, a liquid,
Oh,
or a
I
gas.
see. Yeah.
And sometimes those things intersect at one specific point on that graph, and that's called the triple point of water.
Right.
And at that point, it's really cool, right? So you have ice, like proper ice,
Yeah.
that's also liquid in a glass of liquid that's also boiling, and it's not like fizzing, like gas is coming out of it, like fizzy water.
Yeah.
It's boiling like a kettle,
Yeah.
all at one temperature.
I mean, I have to be honest, and I don't totally understand what you've just talked about
Right.
with regards to that. I mean, I'm willing to take it on license, but it's quite difficult to get your head around.
it's crazy, isn't it?
And also the other thing that
But
I don't-
everyone's had a bad cup of tea on an airplane, and it's
Oh,
basically
yeah.
the same
Well,
thing.
you can't. It's famous if you go walk up Everest, you can't make tea above
Yeah.
a certain height properly because the water's boiling at like body
80
temperature
degrees
or
or something, yeah.
But that's the other thing I don't understand because in my picture of the world of boiling that I
Yeah.
just mentioned, things are flying around, and the more kinetic energy you've got, the more likely to fly away.
Yeah.
That's not true because the boiling point is it's like a digital shift
Well, there's a.
from one to another, and it
Yeah.
doesn't boil. I mean, what's going on there?
You mean at the interface?
Well, boiling water doesn't get any hotter than 100 degrees.
No, that's right. Never gets any hotter.
So I
than
just
100
don't
degrees.
understand that.
So the energy that goes into, if you plot kind of temperature, the energy that's going in to make the water. If you're carrying on heating a pan of water, so the reason the water doesn't go over 100 degrees is because any extra energy that goes into that is being used to give the atoms in that the kinetic energy to escape and become a gas.
Yeah.
And so that's why you don't get any because the energy is being used in the state change because there's work done by an expanding gas.
So I was thinking about when I was thinking about boiling. When I was imagining it, I was
when you're
imagining
zooming in to your little boomerang.
Well, I was imagining in the surface of the water, right? But that's not what
Yeah.
happens. Water boils and bubbles form in the water of gas.
Yeah.
So how does that happen? Because that's not if they're flying around inside the water.
Yeah.
They can't fly off the
So
surface inside.
You're
the
thinking about
water.
maybe evaporation. So evaporation is a surface phenomenon, but boiling is not. Boiling occurs at any point within a.
So I
fluid.
don't. So my explanation earlier on was incorrect then, because I didn't understand like if you get a bubble, how does the bubble form in the water? Then?
Well, that's a separate reason. Is that you have to have a point of nucleation normally, but
no, but I
it's-
mean bubbles. If you
Yeah.
boil something, things
Yeah.
bubble.
yeah,
Yeah, boiling water
Yeah.
bubbles.
yeah.
So how do those bubbles?
Because at some point that those
From-
molecules have enough energy that they don't need to hold. They can't hold hands anymore, and they want to be apart from each other. And when they do that, they become.
So that's not a speed thing then. It can't be just them flying around because they'd need to make that bubble. They need to occupy like a much bigger volume.
yeah. So 1 mole of gas occupies 24,000 times its own
Whatever,
volume.
whatever. But like the molecules are bumping around into each other. And they make enough space for you to call that a gas rather than a liquid.
Yeah, and so you imagine. Okay, so here's the.
You know, when we have these conversations, it's
Yeah.
like I realise fundamentally how little I understand.
So imagine taking a sealed tube of glass or something, right? And we're going to put some water in it, and then we're going to heat it up. And at some point, something is going to start boiling, right? And all of the water molecules are going to start occupying more volume, just as you said. And
But
they're
there's
going
a
to go.
distinct change. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I get it.
Why don't you get a continuum between them in a liquid and them in some kind of gaseous state?
You do.
Why is that? But I don't think you do.
So boiling's happening at every point in the saucepan.
But you've either got liquid or you've got gas.
Yeah.
You don't have something in between.
You can get something in between, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yes, you do. Which is about my sealed because
But
at
it's
some
not
point
like a line. It's not a continuous.
it's called a superfluid.
But you don't get a continuous straight line. So, like, I'm talking about the fact that you've got liquid. It reaches 100 degrees. It stops there.
Yeah.
And then gas forms, right?
Yeah.
You don't get something. Well, you get some specialist
Yeah,
forms of.
yeah,
but
yeah.
you don't get something in between. So I'm kind of saying, well, what's the distinction between the two, and how does that distinction arise through the molecules of water flying around more quickly?
Yeah, so
There's a phase transition. Explain that to me.
So are you asking about why is a gas different to a liquid?
Why is the change? Why is it so distinct?
Why is
the
it-
boundary between
Because
the two?
because at that point the intermolecular forces are overcome by the kinetic energy of the particles. So
Yeah.
so the energy that they like to be together and hold hands is overcome by the fact that they're bumping into each other so
So
strongly.
basically, there's a very distinct energy which corresponds to them holding hands with
It's
each
called
other.
a boiling point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you get to and that will be contained in the kinetic energy of the particles combined with.
That's an innate property of the physical media you're looking at. So obviously that's different
Okay.
for water. It's different for mixtures of water with sugar or ice in. It's then different to benzene or whatever, right? So it's a kind of it's a fundamental physical property.
And it's also inhibited by the amount of stuff you've got pushing down on the water.
Exactly,
the
which
pressure.
is why my pressure argument, because as soon as
Okay.
you reduce the pressure, the amount of times that you can imagine if someone wants to let go, is trying to let go, right,
Yeah,
of its
yeah.
mate. And every time it does that, when it tries to let go, something comes, a gas molecule comes out and pushes it back down.
Yeah,
And so that's it's a kind of
Okay.
physical.
Yeah, I can kind of accept that. So I've got, because with these things, I think with most people, when they learn about these things, you have to have a picture in your brain of what's going on.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if you can sort of have that, it makes things easier. I mean, when you like translate your experiences of you looking at a boiling pot of water,
Yeah.
you know, you kind of think, well, what's going
What's happening on the molecular level?
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose that when you have boiling as well, things do start to boil before you reach the boiling point. So if you're boiling something on the hob, you start to see bubbles a long
Yeah.
time before it actually boils properly.
Well,
don't
actually,
you?
it actually gets even more interesting. So
So it's
this-
not that distinct. You've probably got regions that are hot in the water that are hotter than other bits,
That's
and
true.
that's what causes that.
There is,
the water
so they're not
doesn't-
completely
yeah.
uniform.
So
That's true.
boiling starts to happen in a pot of water.
At the bottom on a pan, because that's the hottest
Immediately,
bit of
probably,
the pan.
Yeah. So when you
Yeah.
put the kettle on and you hear it going,
Yeah.
you're already boiling that layer at the bottom, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Because that bit just so happens to be hotter, but the whole kettle isn't the water in the majority of the water of the kettle.
Yeah,
It's not
I
at
like,
that
I
temperature.
like having. This is the best way to learn, man. Must be what you should. This is like tutorials. I'm having a tutorial with Steve.
So it's cool. So we can talk
Hope
about
he doesn't
gases.
try to grope me later on.
I'll tell you next time. Let's talk about the ideal gas law. That's super exciting.
Yeah, ideal gas.
What's annoying Nick?
Oh, Steve, something's been annoying me.
Nick, what's annoying you?
TED talks.
TED. I love a TED talk.
I can't stand TED.
I
talks.
sometimes feel that, do you know, I was in New York the other week, and I had a meeting from the guy who gave us a talk. So we give a little. So the reason I was in New York is I was there talking as part of some of the people that fund our lab, and they also like have some guest speakers that come in and talk to us. And the guy that gave a talk was the first ever TED Talk. And
Who was the first ever TED Talk?
I forgot the guy's
What
name.
was it on?
He was the.
What was it on?
He was the. I tell you if you listen. So he was the first director of the MIT Media Lab. So I don't know if you know, like back in the 70s, it's quite famous, the MIT Media Lab now. But at the time, it was just like a bunch of academics kind of playing around with like crazy, massive TV screens and touch screens in the 70s and all these kind of stuff. And he did a talk about kind of effective communication, which was an hour long. It wasn't this kind of 18-minute thing, the TED Talk.
So
But, yeah.
what year was this?
Oh, it's like 1998 or something.
So that was on the internet.
Yeah. yeah,
But they
yeah.
didn't have YouTube or anything. in
No,
those
they
days.
didn't, no.
We didn't have videos on the internet. But they didn't, because they didn't have proper streaming or anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
Anyways,
look, I want to
so
dig
this
that
is-
out. We
this-
can pop that on the Twitter feed if we can dig
Yeah,
it
we
out.
can find the
But
first ever TED
they
Talk.
annoy me because
So
like,
you should
I'm
explain what TED Talks
Oh, yeah,
are
I
for
should
anyone who
do,
doesn't
right.
know.
So if you've not heard of a TED Talk, you can just Google it, right? Or I can tell you now.
They could just Google anything.
So
They
a
don't.
TED Talk, it's kind of like some dude. It doesn't have to be science. It can be anything, basically. I saw one about a guy who'd given up pornography the other day, for instance.
The tagline is "Ideas worth spreading," right? So it's just anyone that's got something interesting to say normally, and then
Yeah, that sort of thing makes me vomit.
you hate
So
that kind of corporateness of it, don't you? That's
do.
like you don't like
The
someone.
people, like, I don't. You know what? I wouldn't.
So
Really, I know one of
generally
my.
it's interesting people have got a little story, and they're normally very short. So they're kind of sometimes they're academics. They don't have to be. I know Jamie Oliver did a TED Talk, but it's a story about the.
Jamie.
But generally, there's the kind of short nuggets of someone telling a story about something, and normally they're quite knowledgeable on that.
Yeah, I mean, I always associate them with sciencey people talking about sciencey things or technology, that sort of thing. But they're kind of like, they're always the person that does it. They're not like, it's not an academic talk, so they're not doing slides or anything. It's some guy, and maybe he's got a little microphone in front of his face, like Madonna does when she sings. Don't know why I thought about Madonna. Anyway, a little one of those microphones, and they walk around on the stage,
Yeah.
and they do all of this body language to convey their point.
You don't like
and
the
they
power
always
stance.
seem to be these American guys who are talking about, oh, gee,
Next
this was
gesturing
so
his
amazing
hands,
when
yeah.
I found in the MIT lab in the 1970s, we had the computer. And it's all like that. And then the thing is that you get British people doing it, and they're trying to emulate this kind of...
I know what you mean.
Oh,
yeah.
and it just does my head in. I don't like it.
But don't you think it's good that people, like, interesting people spreading ideas?
Spreading. That's what diseases do.
So it's the verb. The
I
verb.
don't
you've
like
got,
that. That tagline irritates me even.
Really?
What? Say it again.
So I don't think that's
Say
the
it again,
tagline.
say it again.
I
Say the tagline.
I think it's
Say the
ideas
tag-
worth spreading.
Makes me want to vom.
I can't believe you don't like TED Talks.
I've never watched it.
All I know to do is just post. That's basically my entire social media stream is me posting.
a
TED
lot
Talks.
of these TED Talks are kind of like, a lot of stuff these days.
So there's one I watched about a guy. You get those random emails from like people from Nigeria or whatever, and they're saying,
Oh, hello.
Yeah. And then
your greetings, respected sir.
Exactly, yeah.
We have very felicitations. Your bank account is in. I can't.
So there's a TED Talk for a guy that responded to that guy, and they had this like really extended conversation, like backwards and forwards. And he
Yeah,
was
but this has
just like,
been done, man. Adam Buxton did this on his podcast. He tried replying to
Okay.
them.
Well, maybe
he did a Viagra one.
has-
You know those Viagra ones?
Yeah.
He started replying to Viagra
Did he?
emails. Make your penis bigger.
Right.
Black hole. Nothing happens.
No.
Nothing happens.
Not to Adam.
Anyway, I mean, there's some of the things with these TED Talks, I feel like they're kind of half interesting, and I feel sometimes like I'm just in a tepid bath. I put these things on, and I'm kind of
So why don't you like it?
It's
You
kind
don't
of
like the
meh.
fact that someone that isn't naturally maybe kind of charismatic is kind of forced to be that way.
Part of it's
and you
that.
and you feel like someone
Yeah.
it should just be about enthusiasts.
Yeah.
You don't like anyone showing off, do you?
I don't
you don't like people not being very humble.
I think I'm kind of like a really unpleasant, cynical British man who doesn't.
I
like
second that. Yeah.
Who doesn't like these sorts of things? I don't know. I just find the whole. You know what? I'm going to sort of slightly contradict myself now
Right.
because I have seen one or two where I'm genuinely
Impressed.
supportive.
So which ones?
Oh, I've got a colleague who I know at Bath
Yeah.
He did one on. He makes kind of like he's an engineer, but he designs chairs for people with disabilities.
All right.
So people with cerebral palsy who have a lot of these sort of movements, spastic movements.
Yeah.
And the chairs can't usually accommodate their movements, so these are sort of chairs which will give way a bit. It sounds
Right.
like a kind of simple problem, but obviously there's not a lot of
For
money
the
invested in
applicant,
it.
yeah.
And his son has got
Okay.
not cerebral palsy, but a similar disease. So he talks about it from his own personal point of view. So that's
Right.
kind of when something is a little bit more inspiring, I think. So it has a personal story to it as well as.
So it's
kind of-
about authenticity.
I think so.
Yeah,
I
so
think
you
it is
you,
a lot of it.
You,
I
you
think
can
I don't
feel
like-
that these people are just like, no, you have to put power stance. And
I
you
do.
have to move your hand, like you know, when like politicians just are clearly forced to do the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
When Gordon Brown had to smile and things like that. Like
I
it's
think
just-
it is. I think you've put your finger on it a
Yeah.
bit there, and I think a lot of it's to do with kind of this unmitigated slew of stuff, and we're contributed into it with this podcast.
Right.
It's this unrefereed thing where people cast shit out.
What are you talking about? Ours is
And it's
incredibly well fact checked.
But you've got to go. You've got to spend ages. Like
You
none
do.
of it's quality control,
No.
so you can invest some time in some crappy TED talk, like I did the other day. I think
It's got to be
this
semi
is rubbish.
quality control because you have to be invited to do a TED talk.
Well, there's all kinds of sort of satellite TED talks and things.
There
like
is, but
that.
they're not the proper ones. The TEDx.
Well, I think TED could do a better job, to be honest.
All right, so Ted, buck your ideas
Sort
up.
it out.
How does this work? How does this work? How does it work? I don't know how it really works. How does it work? How does it work? I wonder how it works. Nick, tell me, how does it work? That's how it works. That's how it works. I finally understand it now. And that's how it works. Nick.
Oh, I just had a bit of Tropicana.
You like that, don't you?
Oh, you know, fruit juice is something that's quite variable in the pleasure you get from it, right?
Yeah.
Because you can get so many different types of fruit juice. And when you have something like Tropicana,
Which
you
you
realise
consider is the orange juices to which all others are judged.
for an orange juice which comes in a bottle from a shop,
Yeah.
I think it's up there.
That's what I mean. It's a standard. Like if you're better than Tropicana, you're doing well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then, but you realise when you have, if you buy any other type of fruit juice from Sainsbury's,
Yeah.
just like the carton or whatever, you just realise how utterly shit that orange juice is.
Particularly in this country.
Tropicana, every mouthful brings a little kind of very small orgasmic pleasure.
A little ray of
to
joy.
my body.
Flying, just hitting those pleasure centres in the
Oh,
brain.
yeah, great. Anyway, what are you going to talk to me about, Steve?
I want to talk to you about computer games.
Great.
Right. So remember the Master System 2?
No.
Do you remember the Master System?
You're a bit younger than me, so
Yeah.
I was an 8-bit.
Yeah,
I
that was
grew up-
8-bit.
Was it?
Yeah.
But we didn't have games consoles back when I was a computer.
You
Games
did.
consoles. No, they didn't really start to come out until
The NES. The
Yeah,
NES
but they
and
didn't
the
really-
Master System.
So okay, I used to get a computer game magazine called Zap.
Yeah.
Right, which was the magazine of Commodore and Amiga later on.
Uh-huh.
So when I first started getting that, there was no such thing as an
As a
Amiga.
console.
It was
Oh,
before.
okay.
And games consoles were very new things.
Right.
And kind of like a little bit controversial.
Right.
So
Why controversial? Because
Because
people
they-
aren't outside
I think
like
some people
running
who,
around and
some people who had home computers, their parents bought them because they thought, oh, well, my
Educational.
son,
Yeah,
my
very-
son Nicholas is going to become
absolutely loves the computer.
oh yeah, he's been programming it himself. My parents bought me this magazine called Input Magazine, which was like
just
basically.
a load of machine code.
You know what? And what I did was I'd spend ages, like
This is why
2
you're-
days, typing out 10, print, 20 data, 67,
Yeah.
47, typing this out, right? Line after line
Right,
after
yeah.
line of code. You have to get all right.
And
at
if
the
you
end,
mess
you'd
one-
press
one-
run,
yeah.
you press run, and the computer would go, and it'd be like, oh my God!
And then a
I made
little
the
smiley face.
computer beep. It's unbelievable. Anyway,
So-
so games consoles were a little bit kind of like, they were kind of like your decadent home computing.
Yeah. Okay. So remember there was a very famous game called Duck Hunt. Do you remember Duck Hunt?
I do, but
So
only
Duck
in
Hunt.
the edges of my
You remember? I don't know if you
memory.
remember. It had like a light gun, and you used to like point it at the screen, and
No, I don't
there was like
remember that.
ducks flying about. And
So
the-
it was like a Wii game. You could actually point something at the computer.
It was there was a you know, this my whole discussion here relies on you knowing what Duck Hunt is. This might not work otherwise.
It's quite a rude name.
Duck Hunt.
Quite rude name. I wouldn't choose to call a computer game. Duck
Anyway,
Hunt. Nor would I choose if my name was Mr. Hunt. Call my son Mike.
so think about it, right? It's quite ahead of its time, right? So this
Duck
is like
Hunt.
this is in the world of CRT, right? And you had a little light gun, and you pointed it, and ducks flew about, and you shot them, and then they died.
Yeah.
So
What?
how does it work?
Well, if I had to guess, well, this
So, like,
is
it's-
like I'm doing this. I'm going to guess based on a lame person's just like logical knowledge.
Yeah.
So
So
the
bearing in mind,
screen. Hang on.
so think about like say a Wii game or something, right? You have like something in your hand that has an accelerometer in. It can tell that it's yaw and its pitch and its angle. It knows where it is in space because it's got these like infrared points. This is a computer games console that's like 25 years old that just has a little gun that you could shoot. You could point at the screen and you could shoot these ducks on just a normal TV screen. It's
You
not a
know
special
what?
screen.
Well, I would have said something to do with the angle of the gun would have been detected, but you'd have to know where the screen was, and
Exactly.
you wouldn't know where the screen was.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. Is it some kind of like? I really don't know.
Isn't it-
Is it some absorbance on the screen, the color and the light reflecting? And if there's a black spot, you get less light back or something, and a duck's black or something like that.
Yeah, that's very good. You're very close. So this is how it works, right? So you don't see a duck. Like the way the game works is you have these ducks flying about, and then when you click the trigger on the gun on your Master System, what happens is for one frame, the screen goes completely black,
Right.
apart from an area where the duck was. There's a little square that's white.
Oh, I
And then
see.
what happens on the front of the gun? All the gun is a light detecting diode, and if it just so happens to be pointing at the region of the screen that had the white square, it goes. You must have been pointing it towards the duck,
That is amazing.
right? So basically, people are like, I was like,
That
how
is
does?
fantastic.
And then what happens? It goes
So-
straight back to the picture of the
so
duck flying
basically,
about.
It would be a LDR, wouldn't it, rather than an LED? So
Yeah.
your light sensor would
Yeah.
be down the bottom of a tube.
Exactly.
So the only light which subtended
Has to be-
a particular angle would be able to. Ah, right, okay.
So what people used to cheat is you just used to like put it in front of like point it at a light bulb and just click go 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 go, and you used to get like a perfect score.
Well, there's the flaw in the system.
Yeah, indeed. But isn't it cool like that? Like, I really like those kind of old school like engineering solutions to problems where you
Yeah.
think like you look at that on the face of it and you say, oh, you can do that now. You have like, you measure where it is in 3 dimensions to X dimensional accuracy and all this, and all it is just like, is it a black square? That's all it is. Isn't it cool?
Simplest is often best, isn't
I
it?
think it's-
the
there's-
old
there's-
Occam's razor,
it's
isn't
so
it?
beautiful when
Start
you-
off with the simplest thing and then
Yeah.
work your way up.
So yeah, that's how that works.
Fantastic.
Science shed! We're in the science shed! Science shed! We're in the science shed! Come on, Steve!
Bunsen.
Burner!
Dolly.
Machine!
Internal.
Combustion!
Why do we need
Stove!
Petri?
Dishes!
Oscar.
Space!
Isaac.
Newton!
Transplanting.
Science!
Right, I'm bored of you now, Nick.
You remind me of the Babe.
What Babe?
Babe with power.
What power?
Power of voodoo.
Who do?
You do.
Do what?
You remind me of the Babe. Should we go? I think that's enough for one
That
day.
kind of says we're done, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
well-
Like when any argument descends to talking about Nazis, that like
Yeah.
means it's the end of the argument. And maybe when a corollary of that is that when any podcast starts to just repeat David Bowie lyrics, then it's time to finish.
Well, on that note, please share, subscribe, look us up on Twitter. I'm at the Evans Lab,
And I'm Steve the Chemist,
and join us again soon for some more annoying podcasting.
and maybe some David Bowie quotes.
Absolutely.
All right, see you later.
Bye.